2020 season, which was one of the most unique seasons in NFL history. And I'm not talking just because of Tua being a rookie in his rookie season. It was the COVID year. It was a weird.
I was like, you keep saying unique. I'm like, what happened that season? And I totally forgot about COVID.
Yeah, the COVID year with a lot of games with no fans. We had the reserve COVID list. Yeah, it was a weird year, and it actually overall was a pretty successful year for the Dolphins, who finished 10-6, got themselves in position to earn a playoff spot after a crazy Saturday night win at Las Vegas on the next to last Saturday night of the season. This was the face mask pass from Ryan Fitzpatrick to Mac Hollins, where they had
where he got to replace Tua to come into the game and win the game. I forgot about that.
Correct, because Tua at halftime was 17 of 22 for 71 yards or thereabouts. I mean, it was like dink and dunk, and Brian Flores at that time said, I've had enough.
That was the season where Ryan Fitzpatrick had his team stolen from him. That is correct.
Yes.
You're adding context. I totally like. Dolphins drafted Tua in the first round. He was supposed to sit all season for some reason. And I had Brian Flores on I Am Athlete, and I asked him specifically, why did you make Tua the starter in 2020? And I didn't get an answer. And was it management? Was it owner? Was it, you're just shaking your head. You don't have an answer.
No. I'm going to tell you what my very, very well-educated guess is. That a plan was hatched before the season started that when Ryan Fitzpatrick is going to be a quarterback at the start of the season. When the bye arrives, we're going to make the switch to Tua, by which time he will have enough more time from the hip injury and more time learning under Fitzpatrick. And remember what happened that year is the timeline was changed, because this was another quirky part of that season, is the schedule kept getting rearranged because of COVID issues. And the Dolphins bye went from being like week 11 to week 7. And the Dolphins made the switch on that Tuesday of their bye week, after they had beaten San Francisco 43-17 and the Jets 24-0 to get to 3-3. And Fitzpatrick had 3 TD passes in each of those games. So there was zero logical reasons to make that move other than the fact that it was prearranged that they were going to do it at the bye.
And they mocked Ryan Fitzpatrick for crying in his interview with us.
Who mocked him?
Fans.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. It was heartbreaking for me.
It was
heartbreaking for me, heartbreaking for the team. I mean, and people always, I wrote, players did not want it. And I wrote stories from players' standpoint. They did not want it. That was Fitz's team, always was Fitz's team. And Tua didn't seem like he wanted it, because he knew it was Fitz's team. And it put him in a very uncomfortable position. And then to have Fitz come in and save the day for the team in those games like the Las Vegas game. Mm-hmm. And there was another game that he came in and tried to save.
They lost. It was Denver. He came in.
Denver, yeah. So they knew they were playing with an inferior quarterback, but ultimately it was about speeding up to his development, knowing what you have, and investing for the future. That was an investment into the future. Now, if you ask players, and I think they still stand by this to this day, if Fitzpatrick was their starter, they would have made the playoffs. The players on that team probably feel that way. But it wasn't about today. It was about tomorrow with this organization. And
Except, but here's the point where that's kind of, for lack of a better word, stupid, that you had a team that wound up going 10-6. And if you look at the 2 games where Fitzpatrick replaced Tua against Denver, Tua wasn't the problem. The offensive line got absolutely owned by Vic Fangio, by the way, was running that defense. He was the head coach of the Broncos that particular day, and the Dolphins had a chance to tie it at the end, and Fitzpatrick threw a pick in the end zone. And against Vegas, again, it was dink and dunk the first half, and Brian Flores had enough. It came down to the regular season finale at Buffalo, where the Bills already had clinched the AFC's title. Couldn't help their seating situation, but decided to play all their starters anyway. Fitzpatrick winds up on the COVID list. and the Dolphins got whacked 56-26.
Do you really believe he was on the COVID list?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
What do you suggest? Probably, I'm going to assume that even had he not been on the COVID list, the Dolphins would be going back to Tua, because again, this is all about building for the future. Or I would think that's what they were going to do. You're going to tell me Fitzpatrick found that out and decided, oh, I'm going to get sick, and wound up testing positive and got put on the COVID list?
Didn't test positive, just didn't take his test. Deuces, I'm out.
Whoa, don't do that. Man.
And
are you suggesting or reporting that?
I am reporting that we're not going to be digging up old bones.
Although we just did.
We're telling stories.
Okay.
The players have a different story about how things transpired after Fitz was not going to be given that final start against the Buffalo Bills to get his team into the playoffs. Fitz decided, I would rather be in Tampa with my family.
Okay. I like that. The big curious. That's good.
That's the story that I've never verified the story, even though I've had conversations with Fitz. I've never verified that story because I didn't care. At that point, it was over. We knew what it was about. They weren't going to hand him back the team. They weren't going to hand him back the team because of Tua and who Tua was and what handing him back the team would have implications and say. And, and then the team lays down a 56-25 beatdown in the season finale.
Yeah, and that game was not on Tua. He didn't play well, but it was not on him. I remember the drops were an issue. The defense obviously couldn't do anything right. There was, I believe, a punt return for a touchdown against them. It's almost to the point where, to me, once they made the switch at quarterback, you could almost make the argument that they should have just released Fitzpatrick at that point.
Ooh. Interesting that you,
because it wasn't about him anymore, and it was like
he was still there to be a good leader, good mentor, still knew the offense and Chan Gailey. That Chan did not want to come back to work with Brian Flores. The handling of Fitz was part of the reason why Chan did not want to come back and work with Brian Flores. Boy, it didn't help Brian. It didn't help Brian Flores. Not that it was an easy situation to navigate, because it wasn't an easy situation to navigate, especially if it wasn't your decision to play Tua, and it certainly wasn't your decision to draft Tua. So,
correct. And this was also the year, the big 2020 draft with Austin Jackson, Noah Benagany in the first round, Robert Hunt and Raekwon Davis in the second round, Brandon Jones in round 3, Solomon Kinley in round 4, and 11 picks in total. They had also a very large free agent group. Remember, this is a year after the tank or the reset, however you want to say it. So they signed a ton of free agents.
It was the tank. Don't call it a reset. Okay. It was a tank. You got penalized for tanking.
Signed a ton of free agents. Some worked out. Emmanuel Ogbah. Some didn't. Kyle Van Noy.
Brandon Jones. Byron Jones.
Although Byron Jones was very good for 2 years. I'm still going to maintain. Not for the amount of money they gave him, but he was very solid. So anyway, the season ended with a 10-6
players in Dolphins history. But anyway, carry on.
Yep, that's fair. Was it 6 for 82 or something like that?
I don't know.
Anyway, season ended at 10-6, no playoffs, but it was the first of now 4 consecutive seasons with a winning record. But still no playoff. Win. Speaking of playoff wins,
hey, winning records is baby steps. Okay, for 20 years we had struggled with the winning record things, so let's take our baby steps.
2021, this was the year of the great comeback, Omar. If you recall, Dolphins started off 1-7. Looked like all hope was lost. That included some close losses. Tua was out for 3 games after getting annihilated by AJ Epinesa in week 2 against the Buffalo Bills. in a 35-0 loss, no less. Dolphins got to 1-7. Brian Flores, to his credit, did a masterful job of having his players not quit on him or the season.
Held it all together, and it was probably one of the best coaching jobs I'd ever seen in Dolphins history. Doesn't necessarily mean that they had a great roster, but the fact that he took such accountability for the slow start and the issues, and they could have quit. I've seen so many Dolphins teams quit, and they never did. And then Alan giving them the history lesson on the rally back.
Well, they rallied back. There you go. That's I'm playing. So the Dolphins proceeded to win, I want to say 6 or 7 in a row, put themselves, lo and behold, 7 in a row, lo and behold, at 8-7 in position to actually make the playoffs until a rainy, soggy, cold day in Tennessee where it all fell apart.
That was the first instance of Tua not delivering in clutch when his team needed him to be clutch. Second, which one was the first?
The first was the 2020 season finale at Buffalo, even though it wasn't nearly as bad of a performance by Tua. But in that 34-3 loss at Tennessee, that was rough.
Okay, and playoffs were on the line then. Yes?
Which one?
The 2020.
Oh, yeah, the 56-26 loss. Yes, the playoffs were on the line.
Okay,
and the Bills had nothing to play for, but they played their big guys anyway for the first half, early in the third quarter, and then, okay, time to rest. And then Dolphins wound up winning their last game against New England in that 2021 season, 33-24, to finish 9-8, a second consecutive winning season under Brian Flores. After which, there were some massive changes.
Hold on, you're kind of glossing over the Tennessee drama that happened after the game.
Well, this is yours. This is your history.
Where Brian Flores and Tua have a blowout in front of the team, where Tua curses at Brian Flores and tells him, "F you." And if you know Tua,
yeah,
that's a volcano erupting. And that was, the relationship was severed. It was never going to be fixed because Flores supposedly blamed Tua for the loss that they had, and basically put it all on Tua, and Tua blew up at him. And from that point, the players knew, like, oh, whoa, these two, they're not going to work together. And then individuals in the coaching staff, to save themselves, they went up and they started snitching, and snitched on a lot of things related to Brian Flores, who already didn't have a good relationship with the owner, with management, and ultimately, subsequently, he got whacked for. It was okay when you didn't have a good relationship with owner and management, but then when you didn't have a good relationship with the quarterback that they had sacrificed and purged and tanked for, it was over.
Yeah, and no, it wasn't all on Tua, that 34-3 loss.
No, it wasn't.
But he played booty cheeks. I mean,
he was booty cheeks.
First 2022. The arrival of Mike McDaniel as head coach hired in February after his time with the San Francisco 49ers. It also was the offseason that brought Tyreek Hill in a trade from the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hold on, you're glossing over the arrival of Mike McDaniel.
I just said that.
Skirting through the courtship of Sean Payton, where he basically had a holding pattern for, 10 days? Before we, basically were told that New Orleans was not going to let him out of his contract. And then Dolphins got pow for tampering for the courtship of not just Sean Payton, but Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
And that marriage didn't work out. And then subsequently, the Miami Dolphins said, you know what? We're going to go with this young, green, unproven whippersnapper who, even though there were 8 head coach openings out there, we're the only team that interviewed him. And he's going to be 1 for 1 of head coach interviews, getting the very first and only job that he interviewed for.
Damn.
What is the damn for?
No. I mean,
I tell a lie?
You presented that way is interesting. Yeah, as it turns out, yes, the Saints had refused the Dolphins permission to interview Sean Payton.
And they did it behind their back anyway.
Something like that, I guess. But again, and as with the trade for Tyreek Hill, which is pretty big, and full disclosure, it happened during spring break. I was on. This is going to come as a surprise to you, Omar.
Disney World.
Yeah, with the fam when it went down. And I'm trying to remember if I had, for some reason, if I had my iPod with me or my iPad with me, or I wrote the story on my phone or something like that. But I had to write the story while on our Disney World vacation.
The reset of the reset. See? You see how I did that right there?
Yes,
you like that?
Good. Very good. The adjustment in the middle of the reset.
Yes.
Out with Brian Flores, in with Mike McDaniel, in with Tyreek Hill, which came at a cost.
F them picks mentality, which
there you go.
A new approach.
There you go. And 3-0 start to the season. Then came the concussion issues with Tua, starting with that Thursday night game at Cincinnati.
Hey, you're glossing over the fact that he's the hottest quarterback in the NFL when he was playing.
Except he wasn't. He had the monster game in week 2 at Baltimore. I will grant you that. The Dolphins won week 3 against Buffalo because the Bills kept leaving points on the field. And
he still did it, didn't he?
Okay. No, he didn't. He and the team did with him starting quarterback when he had basically one big play in the game. It was a long pass to Jalen Waddle that set up the game-winning touchdown. But this was a game again. Dolphins got outgained 497 to 212. Yes, I remember the numbers off the top of my head because it's so mind-blowing. And they squeaked out a 21-19 win. Then came the concussion issues. Dolphins wound up dropping to 3-3. And again, because this needs mentioning, and it wasn't strictly that Tua was out, it was also that they had a mid-game quarterback change. The other 2 games they lost after Tua left, which were against the New York Jets and the Minnesota Vikings, because people immediately just go, Dolphins can't win without Tua. Again, there were factors. The defense did not create a single takeaway in any of those games that the Dolphins lost without Tua. So it wasn't as simple as Tua out, Dolphins lose. Anyway, Tua came back in a Sunday night game against the Steelers. Did not look good in the least. Dolphins managed to squeak out a 16-10 win, I want to say the score was. Basically because they had 3 picks and the Steelers kept dropping their potential interceptions. That was the difference in the game. Dolphins then ran off 4 more wins, got to 8-3, and then they were balling. And then Tua was in the MVP conversation again because he started playing really, really. There he was really balling. But then came December, San Francisco, the Chargers, Buffalo, Green Bay, 4 straight losses, 8-7. Teddy Bridgewater starts against New England. Again, another mid-game quarterback change. The Dolphins lose. They squeak by the ugliness of the regular season finale against the Jets with Skylar Thompson at quarterback. Mind you, the only game without Tua where there was no mid-game quarterback change, and lo and behold, the Dolphins won that game.
Oh, come on.
Pure coincidence, I'm sure.
11-6 win. It was they
backed no. That's 2022 I'm talking about.
Yeah. 11-6 win.
They weren't 11-6, they were 9-8.
No, I'm saying the score was 11-6.
Oh, it was 11-6, correct. But
they backed into the playoffs. Then they put a spirited effort together late, but they lost, and it was a disappointment of a season. But ultimately, it was the 3rd of 4 consecutive winning seasons for the franchise, and that's a step in the right direction for a franchise that's been mediocre for the last 2 decades.
Sure. And they almost won the playoff game at Buffalo because the defense came up with 3 takeaways, and they also got a 50-yard punt return by Cedric Wilson, which goes to show that it's an all-around team when we're talking one loss.
I mean, it is always an all-around team, but then when we're talking about why the team doesn't advance or doesn't win, it always comes back to a certain individual, and it is all about team.
I posed a question as to whether the Tyreek Hill trade, which was, again, 2 years ago, so that's why I'm bringing it up now, by the Dolphins really was a win-win. We know it was a win for Kansas City because it gave them the cap flexibility and the draft picks. They won the Super Bowl.
Saying it wasn't a win for the Dolphins?
I am posing the question. I don't know. I don't think it's a slam dunk that you think it is. And as I said, one of the lines in my analysis piece, it is fair to wonder whether that was a slam dunk win for the Dolphins. Yes.
You have a top 10 offensive player on your team, the guy who helps deliver the number one offense in the NFL, and you think this is a bad thing?
I didn't say it was a bad thing.
And you know Chris Greer's draft history, which means you could be pissing away those draft picks. And you really, really want to say that Tyreek isn't a slam dunk? Or
as a win for the Dolphins? I absolutely will not say it was a slam dunk. Hear me out. What was their record the 2 years prior to Tyreek? 9-8. Hold on. No. Hold on. 10-6 and 9-8 with Tyreek. 11-6 and 9-8. It's the same record except for the fact they play one more game in 2020.
It's personnel. It's not just the Tyreek. Tyreek is literally the only reason that this franchise is relevant.
And in fact, that word right there, relevant, is a part of my analysis piece. But are we putting a team together to be relevant, or are we putting a team to win the playoffs? There's still no playoffs. You
need to say who is doing it. Whose agenda is this? Is this you really got to be specific?
In the initial SR, that's
it's totally relevant. It's totally relevant.
Correct.
Yeah, totally relevant.
It's SR who wants to be relevant.
Yes, absolutely.
But here's the thing.
Only one team wins a championship.
Sorry?
Only one team wins a championship per year. And usually that team has an elite quarterback or an elite defense and elite running game.
Correct. But here's my question, though. And picking back to that, now that they've done this for 2 years in a row, caught everybody's attention through
hottest team in the NFL, one of the hottest teams in the NFL.
Through November, correct. And this year was even more so because they had that crazy game against Denver. In 2022, it was the crazy game at Baltimore.
TV networks love them.
I understand that. But at what point, for example, they could start off 10-0 next year. What's the narrative going to be?
How are they going to finish in December? Yeah.
All right. And so now, how long do they stay relevant without any sort of December, January success?
I don't know. When we get there, we'll get there.
But is that not a legitimate question?
It's a legitimate question. I'm not living in December. I'm living in this off season, and they got a whole lot of work to do to build a roster. And I'm not worried about December when they can barely balance their books in March. I
agree with you, but it's almost like,
okay, you'd be 5 wins if you didn't have Tyreek.
But you didn't have Tyreek, and you won 10 and 9 games the 2 years before that.
Totally different.
That's.
I don't know. We'll see. If Tyreek wasn't here, Cedric Wilson would be your number 2 wide receiver, and I'm sorry that's not winning anything. There's so many changes to your roster made over the years. It's hard to sit here and say that, Tyreek, are they better or worse without Tyreek? I'm sorry. Nobody's losing when they have a top 10 play. Nobody's losing in the equation if they end up with a top 10 player. And yes, the Chiefs have won 2 championships without Tyreek. But I'm sorry, they got a Hall of Fame head coach, a Hall of Fame quarterback, a Hall of Fame tight end, Hall of Fame defensive lineman, great defensive coordinator. There's a lot there. I
don't disagree with that. But here's another point, because you mentioned, okay, so Cedric Wilson's your number 2 wide receiver if they don't make the trade.
Correct.
They retain all that cap space that hold on, before you shake your head and go like this,
you act like they would do anything with that cap space.
Okay, hold on.
You act like they would do anything wise with that cap space. Let me correct my statement.
Okay, hold on. Here's another point that I bring up. Do we not agree and acknowledge that part of their issues right now and getting further is the style of play is not conducive necessarily to long conference,
but playoff football?
Okay. Is it not possible?
Except for the 49ers play the same style play. They just do it differently.
They have a little bit more physicality, but you're not totally wrong. But they have a little bit more physicality. Is it possible?
Physicality.
Is it possible that once they made the trade for Tyreek, with all the commitments and draft capital and cap space, that they kind of locked themselves into playing that basically track meet type of football?
No, I think Mike McDaniel just became obsessed with it because he had 2 track meet type players, and then he added a 3 track meet type players, including Raheem Mostert, and then he added a 4th in Devon Achane. I think he fell in love with it, became obsessed with it. It's delivered the number 1 offense. I like, and I said this in my conversations with Chris Perkins yesterday. I did a Perks show.
Don't promote another podcast on here. Damn you!
It's all about podcast love, brother.
Here we go. Perks.
Listen, and we're gonna have
Here we go.
We're gonna have an epic podcast later today for people on Thursday. Then we're gonna do it some more. We're bringing podcasts together. We're to give your podcast love. One day I'm gonna be able to make hearts. And
we found out yesterday it's not the background. Apparently it's a Mac thing. So see, now it's not doing it.
I got a Mac. What the hell?
I don't know, Curtin. See, now I'm deciding not to do it.
Because you're not doing your heart right. You're not creating your little thing. Stop it.
There we go.
Here's the thing. I was saying this to Perk. I can't sit here and tell you that it's the style, but I will say I'd love for them to add more physicality to their team. Go get Derrick Henry. Sorry. Give him $7 million a year. Give him a 2-year, $14 million deal. Half of it guaranteed. He's not going to make $9 million, $8 million out there. He's going to make what Cook made. And add him to your team. I understand that challenges Raheem. I love what's that face for? What is that face for?
That he's not getting more than Dalvin Cook. He's a better player than Dalvin Cook at this stage.
Yeah, but he's also in the 2,000 carry club. Do you know what happens to backs who've had 2,000 carries?
Frank Gore, baby. Frank Gore.
Well, wow. You're going to throw Frank Gore in my face. Okay. All right. I see what you did there. No, all right. I will back down. But are we really putting Derrick Henry? Frank Gore lasted as long as he did because Frank Gore had Lamps vision and he never took a direct hit. How many direct hits has Derrick Henry taken? How many direct hits has he given throughout his career?
Yeah.
Probably like 1,200 of that 2,000 carries. So it's a different ball game. You threw me a monkey wrench, but it's a different. Frank Gore might have taken 300 direct hits because he was so good at wiggling out of contact. But hey, it's not about the back. It's about the changing of styles and identities. And you get Derrick Henry, you bring that sledgehammer, it changes how teams view you. So anyway.
I will maintain my point, and I encourage everybody to check it out.
Read it, but it's crazy. It's crazy people talk. What do you expect from that guy over there? That guy right there. Crazy people talk. The Tyreek might not be a good trade.
Read it and decide.
And you're going to be restructuring Tyreek this offseason, making him the highest paid receiver in the NFL. So you better kiss him and make up and tell him how great he is.
That's just me. I don't need to do that. The Dolphins need to do that. I don't need to do that. And it's nothing personal. And shockingly enough, I'm sure this is going to surprise a lot of Dolphin fans. I am all about the best interests of this franchise. I am not attached. Sorry?
I said, benefit your bottom dollar.
Ding, 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 ding. Johnny Olsen, tell him what he's won. I'm not attached to any player, any individual in the organization.
You can't name me a better player that you could have traded for that's not a quarterback. Sorry. Name one.
Aaron Donald.
Nope.
Oh, I disagree. Again,
you can probably trade Aaron Donald right now if you want to.
Well, yeah, but that's 2 more years down the road, and he's on the back 9. He's playing the 15th hole. No, Christian McCaffrey. You can make an argument for Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
come on. I'm picking Tyreek. Christian McCaffrey was given an fire sale by Carolina. Huh?
I understand what Tyreek does and who he is, and I'm the one who's been championing him. I'm the one who said
That's
he was.
why I think you're being disrespectful.
How am I being disrespectful? Why is it that I am bringing up something to make people think? Again, as great, as wonderful, as fantastic as Tyreek Hill has been for the Dolphins, and I just realized I forgot to mention something in my analysis piece, which was that down. I'm going to have to go back and adjust it. His style of play is also not conducive to lasting. And hold on. He's completely strong. Has he not dealt with lower leg issues at the end of each season of his 2 seasons?
2 seasons of 7 years.
But they're his 2 seasons with the Dolphins.
Okay. And he got banged in the knee. What do you want him to do?
Again, with the high volume of targets he's going to get.
Okay.
That's bound to happen. And again, I don't think it's crazy. And again, to me, the bottom line is, as marvelous as he's been. Sorry?
It's crazy.
Bottom line, last two years without him, 10-6, 9-8. 2 years with him, 9-8, 11-6.
And I could say anyway.
No, say it. Go ahead.
No. Because doesn't help the argument. It's a complete team evolution. The team during Brian Flores is a completely different team than the team with Mike McDaniel. If Brian Flores was still here and we were still doing what we were doing there, it would have taken a downward swing. I can't really sit here and say, oh, you're not that much better without Tyreek Hill. Tyreek Hill is a top 10 player. You cannot name me 10 players better than him in the NFL.
No,
and he was literally on pace for 2,000 yards, about to set an NFL record.
No argument there.
He made you the number 1 offense. Him, I can't even sit there and say it's Tua. Yeah, I said it.
Whoa, no, come on, that deserves.
Yes. So how could he not be? I don't even know the draft picks that were given up, and I don't care because they don't draft very well. So it doesn't make a difference. What is it?
1, 2, 4, 4, and 6.
It's whatever.
No, it wasn't crazy, and I said that at the time. In terms of draft pick compensation, no issue there. But again,
for the Dolphins, that's like the equivalent of 2 starters.
Facts are the facts. And did I not hear at the end of the 2021 season how horrible? Because I'm going to keep it PG, because that's not the word it was more like horse manure. The offense was, which was what was keeping Tua down. And yet with that horrible offense, with nothing around QB1, the Dolphins still won 9-8.
That we're talking about 2022. They went 11-6 this year. So step in the right direction despite belly flopping the final 3 games of the season. Which I'm not even going to mention.
They were 10-6 in 2020. You want to talk about 2023? What stood out to you? Injuries. I know. Why am I even asking?
Can I answer my question?
Sure, go for it.
Offensive efficiency. Jalen Ramsey coming back from what could have been a season-ending injury. At mid-season, tremendous rehab, defense sewing it all together, getting really good, becoming the 4th best unit in the NFL before absolutely belly flopping, as the entire team did. A tragic December collapse that was factored in by injuries. Obviously, Tua falling short of rising to the occasion in 4 of his 6 opportunities to deliver 4th quarter excellence. Not all on him, but clearly that's the new goalpost that we've got to kick a field goal through before they move the goalpost on us. Which
you're gonna. Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Listen.
Hey, keep moving the goalpost.
Where was the goalpost with Ryan Tannehill? I thought about this just earlier today. I was just like, somebody was saying, throwing some criticism at Tua because that's all you get on the social media now. And I'm thinking to myself, what were the standards for Ryan Tannehill? He got to the playoffs in year 7, and he didn't even start. He was injured. Where were these standards when he got a multi-year extension? I would think I was one of the only people who wrote like, "Why you were working for the team? You damn sure did not write."
I was thinking. No, actually, I was telling my wife, "What the hell are they doing? The Dolphins are not going anywhere with Ryan Tannehill at quarterback."
Yes, right. I was literally probably the only person. Maybe Dave Hyde did as well, where it was like, "What are you doing? Why?" But we know the nature of the NFL, which is you must coddle and protect your baby quarterback and let him know you love him and tell him that he's special. And no, you'll never have competition. Oh no, you're the one for me. I love you so much.
See, my big thing was, and this is where, yes, I'm going to go with the injuries and the disappointment of what happened to the defense, because remember, I had said, like in November, maybe even late October, once Jalen Ramsey came in, but by the end of the season, it was going to be the defense that was going to carry this team.
And they did.
And they did for a bit, and then all of a sudden, and even though they couldn't maintain the level of play that I thought they could reach, and they had reached, I'm still going to maintain they gave the team a chance against Buffalo in the finale and against Case in the playoffs. And then the offense did not hold up its end of the bargain, which was, quite frankly, a tad of a concern because, again, this was what happened the year before.
This is second year that it's happened, and second year injuries have been a factor at the end of the season. It's the reality of who they are. I stand on this and continue to argue it, and will argue it to my death. The offense does not. It's not a caliber opponent. It just does not work well on the road, especially if you're in the stadium. And I'll give you Cardinals is a different. Cardinals is a perfect example. The Cardinals game, they don't have any home field advantage, so you don't have to worry about crowd noise. So you could do it there. And there were some.
You mean the Chargers? They didn't play the Cardinals this year.
I'm sorry, Chargers. Damn, why? Yeah.
Right.
So you don't have to worry. If you didn't have to worry about crowd noise, then your cheat motions work. Your cheat motions require the offense, everybody to hear to a snap. Now, if you go to a silent count, it doesn't work.
The problem is that they're going to keep playing road games. Last I checked. So if your goal or your objective is you start every year we have to get the number 1 seed, otherwise we're going to go on the road and we're basically effed. That's a problem. Then
number 2 seed works too.
Well, until the AFC Championship game.
Yeah.
But to me, maybe it suggests, I don't know, do something different on offense. Anyway, quick other thing.
But you only had the number 1 offense in the NFL. Why would you do something different?
We can keep saying that as until we're blue in the face.
It's a fact.
But the number 1 offense was not the number 1 offense, even remotely close, whenever they played a good team.
Okay, that's a fact as well. But you still had the number 1 offense.
Statistically, by yards, that's the only way you can say it. Otherwise, no, you didn't have the best offense in the NFL. You had statistically the number 1 ranked offense in the NFL. You did not have the best offense in the NFL. If you can't have one really good game offensively against a playoff opponent, you can't say you had the best offense. Quick other thing I want to do on number 24 before we move on.
You had a good game against the Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, they didn't. Let's work our way chronologically. Yep. So overall thoughts on the season, finishing 8-9, missing out on the playoffs, 2 on IR, missing 6 games total. Overall impressions of the season. What sticks out to you?
Well, to me, the season turned out the way it did because of a complete lack of concern and resting on laurels of tangible numbers from a year ago and not facing the realities of what was actually on the roster. Oh, we had the top passing offense in the sport, then we don't need to touch the offensive line, even though we've really pieced it together over the last 3-4 years. And we have a left tackle that you can't trust to play more than at best 60% of the snaps every single year. But we're good. We're good because Tua's figured it out. And Tua, he played an entire season. So surely nothing's going to happen again. We figured that out. He's able to roll properly. It's fine. And guess what? The offensive line was a massive issue, and they couldn't run the football. And Tua, gasp, got hurt again with the same thing he's been hurt with the last 2 seasons prior, where he had a hip injury that needed to be tended to. And so I really think that they rested on laurels that weren't there. And that's why the season ended up the way that it did. It was a little bit predictable. I will admit, I got caught up in the, hey, look at this thing go. Mike McDaniel, surely he can continue to make alteration and introduce new wrinkles that will help halt any defensive catch-up that is that's instituted against this offense, and that never was the case. My biggest takeaway this year, too, from a coaching perspective, is that we use the term mastermind, and I don't want to disrespect Mike McDaniel here, because I think he is a phenomenal X's and O's guy. I think he knows the sport. I think he's still unique and a breath of fresh air, and I appreciate that. But when we're talking mastermind, you cannot have a coach go from the best offense in the sport of professional football to the least explosive offense in the sport of professional football in 12 months and continue to be called a mastermind, including 2 of the best receivers in the sport, neither of them cracking the top 30 in receiving yards. That right there, a significant problem. All things considered, Anthony Weaver, good first go, if it was his only go as the defensive coordinator of the Dolphins. They cobbled the defense together better than they did the offense. Because again, they rested on laurels, and I think there was some arrogance involved in that, and it showed.
And that's part of the deal. 2 points quickly here. That's part of the deal when you start handing out new contracts all over the place when you still haven't won a playoff game in 24 years. That, to me, kind of boggled the mind. Didn't like a lot of those new contracts. I was kind of vocal about this. And the other part of it is, throughout the season, you heard comments from coaches and assistant coaches as to why they kept a certain player. And it was way too much of, this is a guy who works hard. We wanted to continue working with him. They're good character people. And I'm like, thinking to myself, I work hard and I'm a good character person. You don't want me playing right guard for the Miami Dolphins. Like
right. The
idea is you look for the best players and stop being so comfortable with guys just because they've been there.
Right. And that specifically applies to the offensive line. If you want to go to the press conference and Chris Greer not walking.
Not there yet.
Okay. Sorry. I will save it for that, but you're right. But there you go. Now you're getting a little bit of preview, because this is the stuff, and it's the seeming lack of accountability. And in the NFL, you need forethought, you need foresight, and it's becoming increasingly clear to me that none of that in any appreciable amount exists in that building there right across from the stadium.
Correct. And part of the argument that I've heard before, and I don't know if it was, I think it was during this regime, it was basically like, even if you keep the same player, you have to count on improvement from one year to the next. And part of that is, that's all great, but guess what? The other teams also are going to improve from one year to the next.
Yep.
So if your talent level wasn't good enough, just the fact that they're going to improve is not going to suddenly make them good enough. So that doesn't work. And there was too much of that. On the flip side, with the offensive line, and I've been meaning to write about this, I haven't gotten around to it just yet, and I will at some point, maybe next week, is, and I'm going to be weird, and I'm sure the comments are going to treat me very, very nicely, but it's like, I don't know that I completely need to do like a what the hell were you thinking, Chris Greer, about the offensive line, despite the smarmy comment and how it played out, because that offensive line was good enough for the Dolphins to rank number 1 in total offense in 2023 and number 1 in rushing yards per attempt, number 6 overall in rushing. So the offensive line could not have been that horrible.
Right. What I would say.
Hold on. So he brought back the same cast of characters. Basically, the one significant switch was Aaron Brewer for Connor Williams at center. And I'm sorry, that's a downgrade, even though Aaron Brewer, by all accounts, had a good season. I don't think he's as good as Connor Williams. And then you let Robert Hunt go and replace him basically with guys who are already on the roster. And for that, is anybody going to complain that the Dolphins didn't match $20 million a year for a right guard?
You had enough of that offensive line coming back, but here's the issue. When defenses in the NFL are looking at how to attack the offense, the most vulnerable part of that offense is going to be blocking schemes. And that's what they're going to focus on first, to get pressure on a quarterback who is not mobile, who is susceptible to taking hits and being affected by pressure. And so what do these defenses key in on? That offensive front. Hey, how can we continue to embarrass Liam Eichenberg? How can we continue to have that offensive line be a constant 10-yard penalty moving backwards? And it is clear that of everywhere on the offense, we can talk about safeties being pushed back. We can talk about corners being spread wider and not enough room for Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle to get downfield. But first and foremost, it is clear that defenses went right at that offensive front, exploited that offensive front, because honestly, we're talking about average NFL linemen on that line. Other than Armstead, who, again, doesn't play more than 60% of the snaps in the season.
Wrong. He played 81% of the snaps. So there.
You're right. You're right. I'm exaggerating. I'm exaggerating like the Dolphins exaggerated how consistent and solid they were along the offensive line. You're right. We're all guilty of it. Okay. But when you have that offensive line with the mediocrity across the board, you need more than 19. You can't have that 19% gap on that side of the line at left tackle with that guy in that stage of his career. And so Tua was affected and the run game was effective. And I'm guilty of another thing. I'm accountable, by the way. Look at me being accountable, Poop. Me. I'm the one who can own a mistake and say, hey, I misspoke and I was wrong here. I was very high. And you heard me many times talking about, man, Devon Achane. Look at him. Look at him as the number one running back on this team. This is dangerous. This is explosive. Well, as the season went on, that started to diminish. And that was the offensive line. That was Achane having a tough time getting to the outside. I don't think he necessarily trusts himself as much trying to run between the tackles. And then Raheem Mostert gave you absolutely nothing, not a single thing. And again, exaggerating, but I'm not exaggerating if we're talking about like week 7 on. I mean, Raheem Mostert did nothing for this football team. The run game completely disappeared. And then that's where the mastermind thing comes in. No adjustments, no ability to find ways to churn out chunk yardage, even with the adjustments the defense was doing. And again, you can't be a mastermind if you can't navigate around that, because plenty of coaches have done it before.
I said in my record prediction, going into the season, the season could have went one of two ways. It could have been a 6-win team. If the pass rush wasn't there, it wasn't there. If the secondary was struggling, they really didn't. If the team didn't stay healthy, they didn't. I had them around, basement, a 6-win team, high, a 12-win team. And I said to you guys, if Tua stays healthy, I can see them being around a 10-win team. Well, guess what? Tua did not stay healthy. Yes, he played the games, but that was not a healthy Tua. We all know and saw how bad he was playing because of the regression. And again, you can go back and watch my draft video where I talked about, you draft Tua, you got to worry about that hip injury. You got to worry about the arthritis and him playing I said the risk is that he could play 4 to 5 years. The reward is he can be dynamic, yada, yada. I think that's what I said. And we're getting the risk. We're getting that risk and the risk reward of taking Tua at 5 overall because he's not the same guy he was 2 years ago. He is a shell of himself. And I know a lot of people who don't like Tua will say, oh, he's always been like this. You got it. For a fact he hasn't always been like this. He was able to make way more throws than he's now. He can't make any throws past 10 to 5 yards, 10 to 15. and 15 being gracious. We all saw it when Quinn Ewers came in and how differently the passes were coming out, how quick his release was, the sidearm throws, the throw from the right hash mark to the left sideline, all were completely different. So this was a horrible season by Tua, and this is a season where we kind of needed Tua to play well, and we needed him to stay healthy, and he did not play well, and he did not stay healthy because, yes, he played 15 games, but he still was not healthy throughout the season. Now, do I think that Mike McDaniel wasn't handcuffed by the roster he had? No, not at all. I think, what Chris Greer did with some contracts, Tua Tagovailoa's contract, Tyreek Hill's contract, and Jalen Ramsey's contract, screwed himself over, hence why he got fired, and forced the team to not make any decisions and have to wait till after the draft to add vets, adding Rasul Douglas later in the season. But he ended up being a biggest surprise. If I gave that award, would probably go to Rasul Douglas. Most improved, Jake Bailey, biggest surprise, Rasul Douglas. A fantastic year from him. But I see where you can say Mike McDaniel deserves another shot, but also on the other hand, he is still making mistakes that don't incorporate the talent on the field and more about the timeouts, the play calls, the discipline, the penalties, the delay of games, all of these things, and the culture that was supposed to change and never did change. You have to make the playoffs at least and win, and they didn't. They got 7 wins. They went worse than they did last year, because last year they went 8-9. This year they went 7-10. They went down. So yes, 100% this was a failure. Now, like I played for you, you would think like, why are you shocked by this? I'm not necessarily shocked. I think what shocked me was the state of how everything went. I expected the pass rush to be a little bit better. It was not for the first half. We will talk about how it got better in the second half. And the play of Tua, right? I felt like something was up at the end of 2024. And there was a reason I want to give him the contract after 2023. I wanted to see more out of him. I didn't want to throw this big, stupid contract at him. I wish they structured it better and go back and show that I constantly talked about other contracts, structure it like this. They didn't. But there was certain things like I was like, maybe this, maybe that, maybe no. So 1,000% a failure, a complete and utter failure. And, in my opinion, this was a type of failure that you needed to wipe it clean. Now, obviously, they still haven't wiped it clean. They started to with the GM, but we need a full wipe clean. So yeah, I'm going to go into some stats and I'll go into more thoughts on the season. So the Miami Dolphins were 25th in points, 26th in yards on offense. Last year, they were 22nd in points, 18th in yards on offense. Went down drastically. Devon Achane, 1,350 yards. Your next was Jalen Wright, 288. Devon Achane had an absolutely fantastic year. Your leading receiver was Jalen Waddle with 910. Devon Achane behind him with 408. Tyreek Hill was 6th, and he only played 4 games to 265. A gruesome injury. Really sucked to see him go down like that. Rookie of the year, maybe Quinn Ewers, to be honest with you. He had a short stint. He had 3 games to start. He did play really well. Ollie Gordon also played really well. Kenneth Grant, decent. Jordan Phillips, decent. Jason Marshall had his interception. Zeke Biggers played very well. But out of all of them, the guy who, when he got his shot, did really well, I'm going to give it to Quinn Ewers for Rookie of the Year, our 7th round quarterback. Biggest disappointment, Tua Tagovailoa. There's no question about that. It's not even, should I go into more detail on why Tua was the biggest disappointment? But yeah, biggest surprise or biggest improvement, I can give it to Jake Bailey. Shout out to him, man. That guy did some fantastic things. Team MVP, I'm in Devon Achane. That man was doing everything. Yeah, I have Devon Achane. Dulcich also, some young and up and comers that I'm looking forward to. Dulcich and Malik Washington. Do I still think that this season was a failure? 1,000%.